comes.
Sorry, excuse me.
Roll AJ.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to have to do the caption thing again when you turn the caption.
Ask AJ a question.
Yay! I think I got it on. Is it on?
Subtitles.
The first question is, what is the moon made of? And when will the world end? It's more of a two-part question. Two questions there. I'm not going to try to be an encyclopedia. I don't know off the top of my head what the moon is made of, but I can tell you a little bit about how it got where it is, and then you can determine what it's made of. The best science currently tends to look at the moon as part of the Earth. There was a large object known as Theia, which crashed into Earth when the Earth was relatively molten and split off a big chunk. Part of Theia got stuck in the Earth, and part of it became the moon. Probably some of it got vaporized and spread out into the solar system. So the moon is mostly Earth, and that means that it's mostly iron, nickel, silicon, a bunch of oxygen in there, some aluminum. The surface of the moon has been hit by a lot of space debris. Most space debris that comes at Earth evaporates or vaporizes in its atmosphere, but most of what hits the moon does not, because it doesn't have an atmosphere. The surface of the moon is therefore a very powdery ash mixture full of pretty valuable metals. There's a lot of gold, iridium, palladium, things that would be nice to mine and bring back to Earth if it could be done affordably. We can answer the question of when will the world end in a narrow way related to the moon. One way that the world can end is by another large object hitting the Earth. Certainly for the microorganisms that lived on Earth when Theia hit it, it was a pretty apocalyptic time. Didn't necessarily wipe them all out, but it changed things in a big way. I can't remember her name, but there's a famous actress, Kirsten Dunst. She's in a movie about some large object hitting the Earth, and I wouldn't recommend the movie, but there's a video that was made out of it for a King Crimson song, so if you want to get on YouTube, feeling a little apocalyptic, watch Kirsten Dunst spend her final hours on Earth while the moon comes at it. That's one very low probability way that the human world will end. We've got a third question from an anonymous question asker. What do you do with intense surges of emotion?
I have no idea who's going to ask that question.
Lolly.
This is not an excuse for me to ask them.
I'm going to answer this mostly relative to what I do personally, not so much you in general. But I don't experience intense surges of emotion in general. I suppose what I do with moderate surges of emotion, it would be to meditate
tickle
on
him
them,
the next time I see
to
him.
accept them,
Tickle the guy.
to not act physically on them,
Yeah.
except in a neutral way, and to let them simmer. I'm not a very expressive person usually, and I'm also I'm not short-tempered, so I don't have any real impulse to
God damn
get the
it.
emotion out in any way. I don't have any real impulse to suppress the emotion. I suppose my life of the mind is pretty rich, so it's not so much that if I experience something intense, I'm suppressing it by not expressing it. I'm expressing it internally. It's not going to some kind of banished unconscious zone. So for me, after years of developing a rich internal life in which it's not particularly normal to express strong emotion, but it's totally normal to feel it internally and to contemplate it, that is my strategy.
Woo!
Do you have any last message to the people of Wonder Valley and the Palms Restaurant?
I hope you find these answers useful in some way, and if you have more questions, I'm happy to field them.
Thanks, AJ.